In this video, we're going to talk about what-if analysis. I'm also going to take the opportunity to talk a little bit about best practices in Excel because often what-if analysis is used in conjunction with Excel spreadsheets. So in an Excel spreadsheet, this is an example of one, there are some things that are good to remember when you're setting up the spreadsheet itself. Well, the first is that you should have an area where there's clearly marked inputs with units for documentation. In the cell next to it, you put in there what are the units of those numbers so that somebody can make changes to it or understand how to do the inputs. Another thing is to clearly mark the output. So we have the input in blue and the output in green. So when we change something in the input, we can see the impact on the output. And that's very useful for what-if analysis. The other thing is that in the white area here, that's just the calculations. So for this problem, we had all these items associated with the cash flow, and we did it's a pre-tax cash flow calculation. But we did that down there. But you can see that it takes the input from the blue and does the calculations and produces the output in the green. Another really important thing when you're doing Excel spreadsheets is to be very disciplined about all the calculations should be hard-coded. Should not be hard-coded. There should be no hard-coded numbers, which means no numbers in there. All the equations, like this particular one, should be the reference numbers. So it's C14 minus C15 in this calculation. And so the whole of this white area will be calculations. So the only numbers are going to be in the blue area. So what we're going to do now is go ahead and look at an Excel spreadsheet. So in this Excel spreadsheet, I've changed it a little bit. I had the NPV down here, but I changed it up here. So if we look at all of these values, we can see that, like this one, is actually referencing these values up here. So we can see that it's going to be the units times the volume, and then that also grows at this percentage per year. Now, one of the good things about this is that we can then change any of these numbers. It'll change these calculations, which in turn will change this net present value. So for instance, if I change the growth rate to 1%, it'll lower. You can see it was at 1716, and when I change it to 1%, it lowered it to 1135. I could even change it to minus 5%, and so it shows now here the revenue is falling over time, but the net present value is still pretty high. We could also do things like change the sales price. That'll make a big impact on net present value. But it also, what if the sales price was only $9? It actually caused the net present value to go negative. So what I'm showing you here is if we can sort of play with these numbers, we can make a $7,000 investment, see what it does to net present value. Can play with this to see how it impacts net present value. So in this video, I talked about what-if analysis, and particularly I referenced that within the context of an Excel spreadsheet where you can change numbers and see how the impact is on net present value. That's what we covered.